For today's session of Bob's Briefs, we're going to be talking about anti-dumping and countervailing duties. So the first thing people ask is, what is dumping and countervailing duty? Dumping occurs when a foreign manufacturer sells goods to importers in the United States or Canada at prices that are lower than the selling price of comparable goods in the country of export, or when goods are sold at unprofitable prices and thus causing injury to United States or Canada industry. Countervailing duties are established when a foreign government provides assistance and subsidies enabling manufacturers to sell goods cheaper than domestic manufacturers. Examples of subsidies include loans at preferential rates, grants, and tax incentives. A Canadian producer of goods that are similar to competing imports can file a written complaint with the Canada Border Services Agency if it suspects that the imported goods are being dumped or subsidized and are causing injury to Canadian industry. Similarly, a U.S. supplier of goods can file their complaints with the International Trade Commission. Many times, importers in both Canada and the United States will file their complaints through an association on behalf of its members. This is a benefit as it allows sharing of costs, and the more people on board, the better chances for success. The written complaints must include information on the Canadian or United States produced goods, the competing imports, the domestic industry, and conditions in the Canadian or U.S. markets. It must also provide evidence relating to the dumping or subsidizing of the imported goods and the resulting injury to Canadian or U.S. industry. In Canada, the Canadian International Trade Tribunal is responsible for establishing if the dumping or subsidizing is causing injury to Canadian industry. In the United States, and if the International Trade Committee finds evidence of injury to United States industry, the Department of Commerce does an investigation, and if the results are positive, the U.S. Customs Border Protection withholds liquidation of entries and collects anti-dumping countervailing duties. The entries are not liquidated until the Department of Commerce instructs U.S. Customs Border Protection headquarters to do so. Some critical factors in establishing industry to industry include reduced prices, lost sales, lost market share, and decreased profits. The Canada Border Services Agency in the United States Customs Border Protection investigation process includes both a preliminary and a final decision. Following a preliminary decision of injury, both the United States Customs Border Protection and Canada Border Services agencies can impose provisional duties. This is intended to protect Canadian and U.S. producers until the Canadian International Trade Tribunal in Canada and the Department of Commerce in the United States make its final decisions. One of the more interesting cases one of our clients is currently experiencing involves quartz surface products from China that is imported into the United States. The investigation covers slabs and other surfaces of all sizes, typically sold as rectangular slabs with a total surface area of approximately 40 to 60 square feet and a nominal thickness 1 to 3 centimeters. One of our clients has a contract with a U.S. hotel chain to manufacture tables. To save some money in freight costs, they had the China supplier send the tops directly to the hotels from China. They were classified under one of the tariffs subject to the investigation and were imported during the investigation period, so U.S. Customs Border Protection identified them as an importer and asked them for information. They in turn sent the tables from Winnipeg to the hotel, and all they had to do was attach them to the tops. What is interesting is that if the tops were sent to Canada first, they would have shipped indicating origin is Canada and most likely would have entered duty-free, and unless they had a description to indicate the tops were quartz and from China, would have flown under the radar. However, this is a bit of a unique case where the dumping also covers any product with a quartz top of China origin. So even if origin is Canada and duty-free under NAFTA, the value of the top would need to be identified and declared for dumping purposes. So for today's quiz, the Canada-U.S. softwood lumber dispute is one of the largest and most enduring trade disputes between both nations. The conflict arose in 1982, and its effects are still seen today. What is the heart of the dispute?